Imagine this. You've got an idea for a TV show. The only problem, literally everyone in the business, and I mean everyone, thinks it's a guaranteed spectacular failure. Well, that's the true story behind one of television's most enduring hits, and today we're diving into how it beat all the odds.
I mean, listen to that. Everybody thought it would fall on its ass. That's coming from the show's own executive producer. That is what the creators of Dancing with the Stars were up against. So how on earth did a show that everyone had already written off become a global phenomenon? Well, let's get into it.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The year is 2004. Over at the BBC, somebody gets the bright idea to go digging through the archives. And what do they find? A ballroom competition series from 1948. Yeah, 1948. And they think, you know what, let's bring this dusty old thing back, but with a modern twist. Let's throw in some celebrities.
The basic idea was pretty simple, right? Pair celebrities with professional ballroom dancers and have them compete live on television. The show's executive producer, Conrad Green, called it a strange idea, but also a brilliant one. And why was it brilliant? Well, think about it. Dance is one of the oldest, most basic forms of entertainment we have, but for some reason, it had totally vanished from our TV screens for years.
So, the BBC is gearing up to launch this show in the UK, where it was called Strictly Come Dancing, but even before it hit the airwaves over there, the producers decided to try their luck selling the idea in America. And let's just say the reception wasn't just chilly, it was an absolute Arctic freeze. I mean, this quote from an ABC executive says it all. Very quaint, very cute, very British, but not a show anybody would watch. Ouch! That really sums up the problem. The American execs just couldn't see it. They watched the pitch reel and all they saw was, stiff ballroom dancing. They completely missed the primetime entertainment goldmine sitting right in front of them.
And this wasn't just one person's opinion. This was the message they heard over and over and over again, which is kind of wild when you think about it, because American Idol was a monster hit at the time. It proved that live competition shows could dominate. But nope, the consensus was ballroom dancing was just too passive, too old-fashioned, and frankly, way too British for an American audience.
So just to be crystal clear, we're not talking about one or two rejections here. As the BBC's talent agent put it, everybody turned it down. It was a total, solid wall of no from every single major network. For all intents and purposes, the idea was dead on arrival in the States. So, if everyone said no, how did this show ever see the light of day in America? What possibly could have changed? Well, the answer was hiding in plain sight, in the mechanics of the format itself. It just took one executive finally taking the time to actually watch it.
So what was the turning point? Believe it or not, it all came down to a single DVD. A very persistent producer finally convinced an ABC executive, Andrea Wong, to just watch one episode of the hit British version. So she popped it in for her whole department, and something incredible happened. Nobody wanted to fast forward. In an age of constant channel surfing, they were completely, totally hooked.
And that's when the light bulb went off. They finally got it. The format is so brilliant because it's so interactive. Each couple dances, the judges score them, but then, and this is the magic part, you at home get to vote. The final result is a 50-50 split. It turns you, the viewer, into a judge. You're invested, you're picking favorites, you're voting to save them. It's this perfect blend of a high-stakes sport and a dramatic popularity contest. And another huge piece of the show's secret sauce is the pairings. The producers are basically matchmakers. They don't just throw people together. No. They look at everything: height, physical build, personality, even teaching style. They're trying to create that perfect chemistry, that spark that's going to make us at home really root for a couple. And to keep things fresh, they're not just doing the same waltz every week. The show throws a huge variety of styles at the couples. You've got your graceful ballroom dances like the foxtrot, but then you've got the fiery Latin dances like the paso doble. And it's the producers who assign these styles each week, which keeps the couples and us on our toes.
Okay, so ABC is finally on board. But there's a catch. A big one. They greenlit the show on one condition. It was cast contingent. That's a fancy industry way of saying, if we don't like the celebrities you find, we're pulling the plug. So, problem solved, right? Wrong. The new problem was, absolutely no one wanted to do it.
I mean, can you blame them?
It was such a hard sell. With no American version to point to, producers were essentially asking stars, hey, want to risk your entire reputation on live TV for a show that everyone in Hollywood thinks is a total joke? Yeah, not exactly an easy pitch. A lot of big names who ended up doing the show in later seasons, they all said no to season 1.
So what was the big breakthrough? What saved the show? Well, it was one person, Evander Holyfield, the heavyweight boxing champion of the world. As soon as he signed on, everything changed. The show's producer, Conrad Green, said his reaction was, Evander Holyfield is going to ballroom dance? I gotta watch that. And that was it. That was the hook. The wonderful absurdity of a tough-as-nails boxer doing the cha-cha. That was must-see TV. So with a cast finally in place, the team braced themselves. They knew it could go one of two ways, either a spectacular success or a noble failure. And let's be honest, the rest of the industry was putting all its money on noble failure.
This next quote just says it all. An anonymous executive at a rival network, one of the ones that passed on the show, actually said, "If that works, we should all resign." That's how certain they were it would flop. The premiere was set for June 1st, 2005, and pretty much everyone was expecting a complete and utter train wreck.
But it wasn't a train wreck, not even close. The show didn't just work, it was a monster. A smash hit right out of the gate. 13.5 million people tuned in for that very first episode. Just a staggering number that defied every single prediction.
The reaction was immediate. One of the executives described the moment the ratings came in the next morning as the biggest sigh of relief. This wasn't just a decent debut. It was the biggest summer premiere for a reality show since Survivor 5 years earlier. They hadn't just dodged a bullet, they had launched a phenomenon.
From there, of course, the show was quickly renewed and became a total television powerhouse. And what's really interesting is that it carved out this unique, warm-hearted spot for itself in the often cynical, drama-filled world of reality TV. And I think this quote from Conrad Green really gets to the heart of its lasting appeal. He said, "We don't profess to be an important show, but we make people happy." And isn't that a great legacy? It's fun, it's a little bit silly, and it's just unapologetically joyful. One executive even described it as being like the father-daughter dance at a wedding. And that's kind of perfect, isn't it?
Even the show's ultimate prize, that coveted Mirrorball trophy, carries this legacy. In season 32, it was renamed to honor the show's beloved former head judge, the late Len Goodman, cementing his legacy and his no-nonsense critiques right at the very heart of the show's identity.
So when you just step back and look at the whole journey, it's pretty incredible. The perception went from quaint and cute to a ratings powerhouse. The casting went from begging people to join to being a coveted career boost. The buzz went from embarrassing flop to pop culture staple. It's truly one of Hollywood's great improbable underdog stories.
Which leaves us with one final question, right? Why? Why does a show about ballroom dancing and sequins and more sequins continue to capture our hearts after all these years? It's a fascinating question, and maybe the answer speaks to the surprising, simple power of watching people take a huge risk, learn something new, have a little fun, and just maybe pull off a perfect paso doble against all odds.